Do you ever find there are books that you're just afraid to read? Perhaps they're just very big books, or the start to an entire universe that you're not quite ready for. Sometimes it can literally be because everyone has said you'll love a book and you're afraid of disappointing them if you don't. This right here is the case that we're tackling today, as I made myself a promise at the start of this year to stop being afraid of reading certain books and just dive right on into them. Plus, I really shouldn't be worried about disappointing people if I don't like a certain book. Instead, books should be worried about disappointing me. Am I on a slight power trip? Possibly. And so for this week's video, I'm going to be reading a book that I've waited such a long time to read. One that most of you read for the Book Explorers Tavern pick in February, and I'm really excited to share my reading experience with all of you. We're going to be reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, which is the first book in the Legendborn cycle, and I am just so excited for it. Firstly though, I do want to take a quick minute to discuss my obsession with Arthurian legend, because one, I'm utterly obsessed with it, and two, I think it's important to discuss it in order to dissect why I was afraid of reading this book in particular. Okay, so I think most people's obsession with Arthurian legend and Arthurian myth, if you will, basically started the same way mine did, which was 2008's BBC's Merlin. That show completely revolutionized myth and legend for me, and it was the first time I really got to see magic on television. It was fascinating. I absolutely loved the way it was produced. Not only that, but the diversity of the cast for its time was something else. And then going to like research Arthurian legend after and finding out how white it was, that was definitely like a shock realization to me as a young black kid. But then it cropped up again in a game that I played called RuneScape, where basically you help King Arthur get the Holy Grail. That was another thing where I was like, oh my god, King Arthur again. And just from there, I think like my obsession with Arthurian legend grew. And so I, as any neurodivergent with a research hyperfixation does, I basically went fully into researching like myths and legends surrounding King Arthur, and it eventually led me back to Wales, because if you're looking at anything Arthurian, the origins are always in Wales, and the very first mentions of Arthur come from the Mabinogion, which is the Welsh book of myth, and like one of the only Welsh books of myth that we have. Just seeing Arthur being mentioned in this and also getting like a little bit of an expansion on his myth is so interesting, and it's definitely something that I want to reference when I write my own young adult Arthurian Welsh mythological series someday. As you can probably tell by this big pile of books, there are some books missing from this. This is basically like most of the books that I have bought or like gotten because of my obsession with Arthurian legend. I also did a master's course on Arthurian legend and kind of the way it's been interpreted throughout the ages. So we looked at the Once a Future King, Idols of the King by Alfred Tennyson. It was definitely an intriguing course, and there were definitely some things from that I took that were definitely interesting. But if you're looking for like the one true telling of Arthurian myth, you're not going to find it, because one just simply doesn't exist. We only have certain sources that we have in people piecing together the myth and the legend. There are some things that stay consistent throughout all of the stories, but there's no one true version of it. And I think that's also quite great in a way, because then it means anyone can have their own interpretation of it. But then there are some versions that I'm particularly not fond of, and that's just personal preference at the end of the day. And then for me, I really started to turn towards fiction in order to like see what people were interpreting Arthurian and Welsh mythology as. One of the very first instances of this was the Chronicles of Prydain series by Lloyd Alexander, one of the books of which, The Black Cauldron, was then made into a Disney film. I thoroughly enjoyed this series. I definitely want to reread it because I haven't read it since I was a child. It was one of those instances that you really got to see Welsh mythology kind of come to life, and it's definitely something that I love to see. And then in more recent times, there have been retellings done by authors, mostly American authors, on like Welsh mythology and stuff. And whilst I'm happy to see Welsh mythology and Arthurian legend getting retellings and stuff, I would just love to see one by like Welsh authors, such as this one is Vivi Conway and the Sword of Legend by Lizzie Huxley Jones. And so if you're looking for Welsh mythology written by a Welsh author, I would highly recommend you pick this up. It is amazing. This all leads into my thing with Legendborn, because from my own research, I knew that Tracy Deonn knew the roots of Arthurian legend were in Wales, which made me really happy, because a lot of the time when American authors write Arthurian legend, they either miss out on the Welsh or they make it very Americanized. The Welsh is lost. I'm always very iffy when American authors approach Arthurian or Welsh mythology in general, and sometimes it's kind of hard for me to read those types of books without being overly too critical. So I was afraid that I'd be too critical on Legendborn. I was afraid that I wouldn't like it, and then I would have to like say that I didn't like it, and then it would be like this whole thing. I don't know, I feel like lately I've just become more and more confident in the fact that I would like it, and I think I just need to stop worrying about all these preconceived notions that I've been having, because we've already dismantled a lot of my preconceived notions on books on this channel. I've taken us down a massive hyperfixate. Actually, also, another instance of Arthurian myth that's been very Americanized was the Once Upon a Time interpretation of Camelot. What was that? What was that? The only thing I'll give them credit for is making like Merlin black, but like There's a lot of problems with Once Upon a Time that I might go into. Like, I could do a whole video essay on Once Upon a Time, and like, it initially did very well, but then as the seasons progressed, why it did so badly. That's a whole other tangent that I could go into in some point, but overall, basically, this is all to say that because Arthurian legend has been one of my biggest hyperfixations since I was a child, I get very critical about the fictionalized aspects of it. Now I'm trying to learn not to be. I think I'm now ready to read Legendborn. Just before we launch into reading Legendborn together, I do want to quickly tell you about a new Dark Academia novel, Where Sleeping Girls Lie, the latest release by my friend and one of my favorite YA authors, Frida Abkei-Minde, author of the cultural phenomenon of Ace of Spades. Where Sleeping Girls Lie follows Sade Hussein, the new girl at the prestigious Alfred Nobel Academy who didn't expect that her roommate Elizabeth would go missing on her very first night. To make things worse, however, everyone thinks that Sade has something to do with it, including the Unholy Trinity, the most popular girls at the school. And if things can get even worse, a student has now just been found dead. Secrets lurk in the depths of Alfred Nobel Academy, secrets that might rival the ones that Sade is keeping herself. Everything Frida writes, I absolutely eat up, and this novel is no exception. There are some disturbing twists and turns, but there are also moments that I relate to heavily as someone who studied in a predominantly white institution. It's such an interesting novel, but also an interesting examination of the British schooling system. And so, Where Sleeping Girls Lie is out now, and you can pick it up at your local bookstore, your local library, an online bookstore. Just make sure you get your hands on this book. And a massive thank you to Usborne for sponsoring this portion of the video so I can talk about this book. And well, secrets haunt these hallowed halls, and I'm sure you're going to want to spend the time uncovering every single one. And so now we've covered this Dark Academia, let's move on to one that's much more Arthurian. So today we're going to be reading Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. It's a book that I've been looking forward to reading for such a long time, as evidenced by everything else previously in this video, but I just think it's going to be such a fun adventure, and everyone has said that this is going to be a book that I will love and will be obsessed with, and that they're surprised that I haven't read it yet. But I think because so many people had said that to me, I kind of felt pressured in a way to read it, and I'm kind of that type of ADHD where, like, if I'm told to do something, I'm less likely to do it. It's really weird. Honestly speaking, from the very outset, it sounds like it's going to be a book that I'm going to love. I'm kind of going to spend some of the afternoon in my office just reading, and this book is split into 4 parts, so I think I'll just check in after like every single part just to like give my thoughts and feelings so far. And I'm also kind of looking forward to doing a reading vlog in this style that I've been adopting recently, and all of your support on this journey so far has meant so much to me, and I'm just looking forward to seeing where we go in the future with it. Just like the jacket design itself is so lovely. This is the Alcrate special edition. The jacket was done by Laura X, who did the original cover art for Legendborn and also Bloodmarked, I believe. But I'm just absolutely obsessed with the way this looks. I think it's just gorgeous. So without further ado, we're going to take the dust jacket off and dive into Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Oh, Evan. Evan, what are you saying? Someone can. Okay, a Percy Jackson reference. Ah! Oh my god. What the? Oh my god. The ouchies were held out! Fire them dog. This is so exciting, this is so exciting. We are on we're on part 2, Discord. I have thoughts, I have feelings. I really love this book. I don't even think we're that far into it yet, to be honest. Things were established quite quickly from the get-go, but I feel like that was intentional so we can get a lot of the world building in and a lot of the information delivered quite quickly so that we don't have to worry about that later on. I also love that we have this kind of like turning point scenario where Bree could either go back to her old life and not worry about all this, or turn and run towards magic, and, you know, she chooses to turn to run towards magic. I kind of love those moments within stories because you can really like feel the actual active choice made by the protagonist to go forth into the unknown and go forth and really kickstart the narrative, and it's just one of my favorite like literary devices to use. I love the way that Tracy Deonn writes and the way that she develops Bree's character through the first to like fifth of this book, really making us feel for her and developing her personality so much so to the extent that you've already established the kind of person Bree is from the end of like the first couple of chapters, and I love that. But so far I'm having so much fun with this book. My Arthurian heart is screaming. We haven't really delved a lot into the Arthurian like legend and myth yet, but I feel like that will come in part 2, where I feel like it will be a lot of like the exploration, introduction to this new world, Bree kind of going through everything that she needs to go through and really unraveling the mystery surrounding the legendborn. And I already have so many theories surrounding like Nick and Selwyn and Bree herself, and I feel like it's just gonna be so much fun. And I can see why so many people wanted me to read it, because it's just such like it's such a Joel book. Like, you get fantasy, you get Arthuriana, you get a little bit of dark academia. It feels like it's the perfect book for me. We'll definitely see if it continues to be so later on. But yeah, so now let's get on to reading part 2, and I'm just really excited to see what happens next. I got myself a little blanket this time around just so that I could like chill with the book and relax, because I also got pillows for my bed just so that I can kind of make this into like a little cushioned area like I wanted to do. And it feels so comfy. It feels really nice. Kind of want to sleep in here, but I have the whole day to myself. So I think sitting in here and reading a book is probably the best way to spend that. I just wanted to share that with you before we continue on with the book. So book in hand, I need to get my headphones so I can go back into the audiobook, which is amazing. And then yeah, we're gonna continue. Interesting. Oh gosh. Oh, let me push this back. I'm sorry, but to my surprise, she openly gestures in my direction, a pleased smile on her face. The year our chapter welcomes its most diverse page class. She is the first black woman to be in this class in the entire history of this institution. Victoria leads her own applause and half the room joins her. Heat curls around my neck and ears. Diverse. Like an award she'd given herself. A gold star. Diverse. Gagged. Well and truly gagged. Tracy Deonn just used the Welsh name for Excalibur. You have no idea how much that means to me right now. Right now, Tracy Deonn is already #1 in the Arthurian reimagining space, because this is what I needed. This is what I need. Oh, I love the Welsh. I love the Welsh. Okay, I really like how they're explaining this. Patricia really gets started. Oh, this book is great. Oh my god. Oh, yes. Yes, Bree. Tell Vaughn. Oh gosh. Yes! Ew. So I just finished part 2 of Legendborn and now I'm on part 3 Roots, but I'm gonna find my bookmark or just use this one. This book is so good. Like, I think part 2 really got into like the development of the Legendborn mythos essentially, and how like Arthurian legend now connects with the Legendborn society. And I love this explanation. I love the way that not only Tracy Deonn kind of explained how the Legendborns came about, but also how it expanded into the US, because I always find with some of these things that like the explanation doesn't always make sense. The way that Tracy Deonn has developed this world is absolutely fascinating. Like, I would love to pick Tracy Deonn's brain about not only her research, but the way that she crafted this world. And especially now that we're getting into other elements of magic, finding the root of it, if you will, I think it's interesting to see kind of not only viewing like Legendborn as like this kind of Arthurian story, but also a story that discusses colonialism and racism and like slavery and like legacy. I think a massive theme in this book is legacy. Not only the pressure to maintain a legacy, but also looking at someone who doesn't know their legacy, doesn't know their ancestry, and almost reckoning with that in a way. The almost female rage aspect of it in some ways that Bree experiences as well. And I'm just really intrigued to see how in like the other half of the book this is tackled, because I definitely think that Bree herself is such an interesting protagonist. I just love it. It's just so good. I have spent quite a lot of time up here today, and I'm really glad that I'm reading this now, and I'm really glad that I was able to beat the fear. But yeah, I'll see you in the morning. Oh god. Oh my god, right. I also need to just line this quote because it's absolutely like phenomenal. Here. I map this terrain sins, the invisible and the many, and hold them close, because even if the pain of those sins takes my breath away, that pain feels like belonging, and ignoring it after all I've just witnessed would be loss. Tracy Deonn making me feel things. She just writes so well. And like, you can really tell that every single word that she uses is intentional, and I've been reading so many authors lately who are more intentional with their word choices and like the craft of their sentences and like writing craft in general, and it just really empowers me as a writer, you know? So good! So good! But let's continue on. Sal and Bree? Sal and Bree? Oh my god. So we've basically just discovered what happened to Selwyn Kane's mother. I just want to know what happened to Bree's mother. Oh my gosh, we're almost at the end. We're almost at the end of part 3. Oh shit. I'm gonna adjust the camera a second and then we're gonna talk. Right, so we just finished part 3 of Legendborn. So much stuff just happened in part 3. I think it's definitely the one where the most plot development happens and a lot of shit goes down. Just the dynamics are changing. I knew this was partially gonna happen, but I didn't expect it to happen in the way that it did. And I'm kind of loving the kind of dynamics that are now being formed. This entire build-up has been interesting, and finally getting some answers was definitely satisfying, but also not in the way that I was expecting, and also for it to amount to the thing that it amounted to. It's definitely an interesting take on things, because usually plots would go one way, this went another. I'm absolutely obsessed. Honestly, no notes. No bad notes. We have about 120 pages left, and I have no idea how this is going to end. I'm hoping it doesn't end on a cliffhanger, because I hate those types of endings. I'm really excited. Luckily, I have blood marked here, so I don't think I'll go to it straight away, but I definitely want to get to it in the next couple of months. I basically just want to finish this now, because literally can think of nothing else to do. I am ADHD hyperfixated, so I literally just think I'm gonna make another cup of tea, sit down, and then finish this book. That was so emotional. Chapter 42. If anyone wants like a benchmark. Interesting. What the fuck? Okay, so I basically have 15 minutes left on my audiobook for Legendborn, so I thought, why not just like take you through the last 15 minutes? So basically I'm just gonna give you like a best bits of my reaction. I've read so many good books lately, but I feel like my reading trajectory for this year has only like soared, and now that I've like started tackling books that I've been afraid of reading, it's kind of like I've been stopping myself from reading these books because I didn't know how I'd react to them, but then I'm holding myself back from so much joy and happiness by doing that and just making myself feel more stressed. I don't know why I'm doing that. Let's press play on the audiobook. Too many people are dying. Oh God. Mr. Davis. No. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. Please no. I'm sorry. What? Oh, do it. Do it. You drag her. Slay her. Wow. Just wow. I need some time to consolidate my thoughts. I'm speechless. I'll chat to you in a bit. Hello besties. So I took the night to basically recuperate my thoughts about Legendborn, and I have the naked book here. I have the dust jacket, so let's put it back on so we can discuss. I think this book has probably become one of my favorite YA books of all time. It's very rare that I say that because I'm very selective with the YA that I read. Even within that, I'm very selective of the YA books that actually do become my favorites. But this just basically had everything that I wanted and everything that I needed from a YA Arthurian story. The proper homages to the mythology, the proper inclusion of the Welsh language. There's a conversation around colonialism, specifically in the way the Arthurian Legendborn ethos has transported over to the Americas, with the reveal at the end, the potential for that kind of thing. It really spoke to me as someone who is both Welsh and also interested in Arthurian mythology and also a person of colour. There's a YA series that I want to write eventually that covers the intersections of Welsh mythology and King Arthur legend, and it is going to be featuring Welsh characters of colour because I think when a lot of people think of Wales, they think of mostly white people. It's just something that I personally am quite passionate about, showing the diversity within a stereotypically white setting. I think this book does really well to combat racism within the Legendborn society, but then also racism in an academic institution as a whole. And I can definitely see where elements of dark academia do come into this because it's just so succinctly put and each moment is written very well, and I felt it on every single level. But let's dissect this properly and go into kind of why I love this book so much and why I am then really excited to move on to I hit my face with the book. Why I'm really excited to go on to Bloodmarked later on. So let's just talk about the plot. So the plot really kicks off straight away from the get-go, and it can be quite jarring to some readers, I feel where the plot starts straight away, but for me, I felt it was just a perfect way to really get the story going. And I loved how immediately we were introduced to the world, introduced to certain things. It was done in a way where we could get slowly acquainted with the creatures and stuff like that, but with how quick certain bits were done, it really felt quite natural. And I just think Tracy Deonn's skills of world building are impeccable. I would definitely love to see a high fantasy from her when the Legendborn cycle is done, because I definitely think she would slay with a whole world building scenario. This book is not only a book about Arthurian legends, knights and stuff, it's also a novel about grief. It's also a novel about emotions and repressing them and doing things because we think they'll make us feel better, but in actuality they don't. Bree struggles so much throughout this book with the aspect of her mother's death, and she represses so much of her emotion because I think as Black people we're often told that we need to hide our emotions, that we can't act out, we can't be angry for fear of being stereotyped. We have to act a certain way around white people so that we're not seen as other, and it's frustrating. We do all have an inner after Bree in us where we're just raging to the surface. I think it's just such a powerful book in dealing with grief, and also the conversation that Bree has at one point with her dad about therapy. I think it's so important to be having those conversations with parents, with loved ones, with people you care about. This book spoke to me on so many different levels. I just love how Tracy Deonn was able to weave all of these conversations together and still deliver such a beautiful narrative about finding your power and finding who you are in amidst all of the chaos, especially when it comes to highlighting Black American history and the legacy of it, especially at the end of the book where certain revelations are held. And we really got to see that legacy play out in real time, and it was just so mind-blowing. The way that Tracy Deonn really reckons with the past in the present and delivers a narrative that is timeless but is also so so powerful in highlighting the painful parts of history and trying to make a difference now. And I think this book just delivers so well on so many different levels. Like, Bree as a character is probably one of my favorite YA protagonists that I've read in a long time. The way that she's able to navigate every situation, the way that she is able to not only recognize like how she's feeling, but also process it in like sometimes like a not so great way, but sometimes in a great way. She's just able to do so much. We definitely see her grow into like a better person throughout the book, learning about what it means to process trauma, process grief, process generational trauma. This is a book, oh, that is the word I've been looking for. Like, this is definitely a book that highlights the impact of generational trauma and the legacy of that, and like what it means to be the descendant of so much trauma and so much pain that you literally are just brimming to the surface with rage at every given point. It's terrifying, but it's also like, in a way, beautiful, the way that Bree really reckons with that, especially near the end of the book, and now has to deal with so many different things, especially as the only black woman in the legendborn society. She has a lot on her plate, and I just know that she's got a lot coming for her in Bloodmarked, and I can only pray for her. Obviously, this book is a 5 out of 5 stars. I had so much fun with it. I think it's phenomenal, amazing. If you haven't picked it up, please go pick this up. I had so much fun looking through people's responses to this book on our Fable Book Club, the Book Explorers Tavern, people on Discord as well reacting to this book. It's actually been such a fun time. If you've yet to join it, I'll have the links in the description to our Discord and our Fable Book Club, so you can join one or the other and you can interact with the book clubs there. And we'll also have an Instagram page up soon. And so the moral of this video basically is that books do scare us. We are sometimes really afraid to read books, but sometimes you've just got to take a day to just tell yourself that you're going to read it, or at least start it. Often, more times than not, you end up not regretting it. And so if there are any books you're afraid to read, leave them in the comment section down below, and maybe we can encourage each other to read the books that we're afraid of. And so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Perhaps consider subscribing so that you can see whatever I upload next on a fortnightly basis at this point in time. Hopefully we're gonna get to weekly, we'll see in April. But I'm just super excited to read more books that I've been scared of. Maybe I'll finally get to Brandon Sanderson, who knows. I'll have all my other socials in the description down below for you, so you can follow me on every single other platform. I do some great short form content, so it'd be really cool to see you over there as well. That's basically everything from me. I am now going to go to the gym because I feel like I need to go and do a workout. I guess until the next time. Bye, besties.